Hey guys. Hey, welcome guys. We are in Hamilton, Ontario, still on our cross-country trip. Beautiful. We're supposed to get some like crazy rainstorm, which I'm super excited about. It's supposed to be like flooding waters and stuff. So yay. Hey guys, thanks for saying hi. Grand Prairie, Barrie, Port Dover. Yay, Cheryl. So hey, Singlekey. Yay, finally. We have had so many questions about it that Nin just was awesome in getting in touch with them and making sure that they can come and answer all of our questions. So we've got Sam coming on. I'll let him introduce himself in a couple minutes. Hey guys, hey Tori. So yeah, guys, we are cross-countrying. It's been pretty darn good now. We've done Calgary, we've done Edmonton, we stopped in Saskatoon, Lloydminster, and now we did our Toronto meetup. We did a Fearless meetup. So thank you guys all for coming out. It was awesome to see and meet some of you in person. It was funny how we needed each other's last names to be able to figure out who was who. And then our Ignited dinners. We had a beautiful, beautiful night the other night with all our Igniteds. So really nice to just connect. So it was so good to see everyone on Saturday too. All right, guys, we have our Ottawa meetup next weekend. So we've got, it's Friday, Ottawa meetup. I didn't write the date actually. The 24th, okay, it's at the Claudette Kane Park in Ottawa. Everyone's invited from Fearless. So if you're in Ottawa area, come and meet us, come and join us. Let us know how we can help you get your investing journey, rolling a little bit. And yeah, of course, our Ignited dinner after that, and then we'll be heading to the Maritimes to see all you guys out there. So any Fearless, we're going to be doing meetups all the way along. So thanks, Nan. Friday, awesome. All right, so without further delay, let's bring Sam onto the stream here, and we'll everyone can see him in the thing. Yeah. Oh, here, boo. There we go. Chico says hi from Hamilton. There we go, you weirdo. Okay, let's bring Sam on.
Hey guys.
Hey Sam, how's it going?
It's going very, very well. It's a nice sunny, windy day in Grand Prairie, Alberta.
Grand Prairie. Okay, I thought you were out of Edmonton. I wasn't quite sure.
No, my wife and I moved to Grand Prairie back in January from Toronto.
Oh, from Toronto.
Yeah, a little bit of a change of pace.
Yeah, no kidding. I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you can run anything from anywhere these days, right? So why not?
Exactly. Most of the rest of the team is at Singlekey is based out of Toronto. Our office is there, but I sort of go back and forth. Right
on. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a quick intro. What do you do at Singlekey? I have a bunch of questions that have been, pre-submitted for you, and we'd love to just kind of have you show us, I've been doing credit checks. I've been doing my own tenant screening for, 17, 18 years. I can tell you there were times where I just did not know what to do. There were other times where I was just frustrated beyond words because I couldn't get what I needed, credit checks or criminal checks or whatever, all, at the same time, whatever. You guys have kind of revolutionized things and brought everything together in the last, 2 years? Is that about how long?
Yeah, in about the last 3 years. But yeah, we're pretty incredible. Yeah.
You were.
So, my background is in property management software. I was director of sales at a property management software company before. And I found that just all the options that were out there, what we had available to the software was very bad and hard to read, and it didn't bring a lot of intelligence to the table. And that's when I met up with the guys at Singlekey and joined shortly after that, where I saw the real need for it in the marketplace.
Right on. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so your position at Singlekey, basically you're there to make us talk to, like, you're kind of the transition between us and the software. Yes, you're going to help us out figure all this kind of stuff out.
Yeah, I'm the conduit between the tech and the human aspect. So yeah, I'm the director of sales and partnerships. So I work mostly with property managers and our B2B side of the business, but I take care of our sales team, our customer service team, our customer success team, all of that wonderful stuff.
Right on. So, hey guys, I think we're having a little bit of technical issues just because there's only like 25 and then it jumps up to 35 people on and off. So anyways, how many of you guys have used Singlekey before? I can say that before, about a year ago, I had never used Singlekey. And then when I used it for the first time, I haven't used anything since. Like I said, I'd always done my own tenant screening. I then went to another screening, kind of tenant screening company about a year ago that had come out. But since I used Singlekey, I haven't gone anywhere. So how about you guys? Throw it in the chat. Who's used? So I know Marie, you've used Singlekey and obviously love it. Who else has used Singlekey or have even heard of it? So throw it in the chat for us, guys. Okay, so what just learned about it recently? Perfect. Oh, hey, Michelle. Okay, so what is Singlekey?
I'd love to hear from anyone that has used it and didn't like something about it. Even more importantly, so that we can fix it if there was an issue. So put that in the chat as well, please.
There we go. Look at that. See, someone who actually wants to hear constructive criticism. Like, that's a good sign just beginning.
Oh, yeah.
But so far, everyone's saying that they really liked it. So that's a good thing. So tell us, what is Singlekey about? What does it do for us? How does it help us as investors? How does it make our life easier?
So the whole goal of Singlekey or the why that gets us up in the morning is helping landlords, property managers, landowners, whatever you have it, manage the risk that goes with renting properties. Yeah. There's a lot of risk, especially these days, involved in renting residential properties. So the company as a whole, we want to provide solutions that help manage that risk. So right now we have two, soon to be a third product to help landlords and property managers do that. One of the things is the credit and background check report. So that gives you obviously a full credit check report that is, in my opinion, better than most other things in the market there. One main difference that I really like is that we give you full trade lines. So most other products will give you a bit of an overview of the person's finances, but just as a sort of everything clumped together, there's this, boom, all together. We give you clear trade lines. So this bank account was open. This credit card was opened on this day, closed on this one, was paid off, so on and so forth. So you get the full picture, which somehow isn't just, that's the way it should be. It's clear that that's the way it should be, but somehow it isn't. So that's something that we fixed. And then you get a criminal background check from 200,000 databases, fraud watch lists, just background check in general. We scrape the internet for news releases or news articles about that person. And we've seen some stuff, I can guarantee it, on that. And then we do a full social media scan. So we scrape the internet for any social media profiles. And oftentimes it's profiles that you wouldn't be able to find yourself because they're not necessarily on Google or they're under a different name or so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so I've been, like I said, I've been doing these credit checks myself for a really, really long time. And I've always wondered, like, so to get a proper criminal record check, you know, often it takes 2 weeks. They have to go in and apply for it themselves. Like, where do you get your information from? For one, some of the questions that I'm curious about, and we had one sent in, was for the fraud part and for the criminal record check. Where do you get that information from?
Yeah, that's a good question. The secret sauce, if you will, of that information is that we get it from a lot of different places. So like I said, 200,000 different databases, some of which you can access yourself. You can go online. There are certain databases that, you know, like the BC or Ontario court system database, right? You can go and query on there, but it's very hard to figure it all out. And a lot of the times it's a system that's, you know, you have to have a PhD in as a librarian to access it, to sift through all the information. So we make it super easy to access that information, and we put it all together, sort of throw it in a pot, add a bunch of AI in there and a bunch of tech to make sure that these sources are checked against each other so that you're not getting wrong hits. And then we serve it up to you on a silver platter.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one experience I had was we had something come up. I can't even remember now exactly, but you know, everything worked out just fine credit-wise. But we had something come up that said something about a break and enter. And I was like, oh, well, that's weird. So I said to them, and this was one of the first times I used Singlekey. I don't even remember which, you know, area it came in under. So I just kind of said to them, hey, like, did you have a break and enter? It's like, well, kind of not really, but like I broke into my old place where my girlfriend was living and she freaked out because I wasn't supposed to be there. And I'm kind of like, good to know. Not maybe the type of person that I want, you know, like someone who's not going to listen to rules when he knows he's not supposed to be going back into his place, his old place. You know, just different things like that. I found that super handy. Also the social media stuff where you guys have it all put together for us. So we can just like go, oh, there's their Facebook. Perfect. Instagram. You know, we can just click on them instead of having to go and find them and search for them and see, is this the right person? Is that the right person? You know, oh, you know, wrong Tiffany Young, because there's so many of them or whatever it might be. So that makes it super easy.
Yeah. And oftentimes these days people are, you know, not necessarily opening up their social media accounts under their own name or under an alias, so on and so forth. So it makes it very hard to just search someone's name to find their social media links.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so George asks a question. He's like, how would this work for checking new immigrants to Canada?
Yeah, it's very hard to do that because they don't have a credit history. So the credit check makes it, we'll just give back a zero hit. As far as criminal databases go, we do have international ones. So it will bring back some from some databases, any criminal history. And then social media, same thing. The social media scan will bring back results, but the credit check, unfortunately, won't bring anything back unless they're new to Canada, but somehow have already created a history of credit, which would generally not be the case. Yeah.
Okay, so it does only check Canadian history. It's not going to check history from the UK or from the US or anything like that.
It will check history from the US. Yeah.
Oh,
US
okay.
and Canada. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did you say that?
And we do operate seamlessly in Canada and the US. So if you have, let's say, a property in the US and you want to use it for that, we have a lot of people that have most of their properties in Canada, but they own a couple of properties in Florida, let's say, so on and so forth. You can use it seamlessly.
Okay, right on. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, anyone, if you guys have any questions, now's the time to ask them. I do have a couple questions. I know you sent in some stuff that you were going to kind of show us a little bit of, so that's great too. We can do that at any point. But I had, you know, a couple of questions on some of the information you sent over. You said that there is a tenant pre-screening link.
Yeah.
What is that and how do we use it?
Yeah, so on on your account, there are some advanced features. So we do offer an integrated application. So you can send an application form or our application form to your tenant. They fill out that application form. If you don't have one set up, there's one. It's available. It's free, just as part of the service that we offer. We're really about adding a lot of value to our products as well. Like you can go get a credit check pretty much anywhere, but we like to add a lot of little things that help people out. So the application form is one of them. You can send it as a link to the applicant. It's really easy to use. And we also offer a pre-screening link as well. So if, let's say, you have something set up and you want to, before applicants are able to send you an application, they have to fill out the pre-screening form, which the end goal of that is you get more relevant applications. You don't waste your time going through applications that aren't relevant, that, you know, you're not accepting pets, but this person has a pet, or you're not accepting smokers and this person's a smoker. And instead of having them fill out an entire application, people today get bored pretty easily, right? So it's a little thing to get them ready for the application. And we've seen application rates go way up after using the pre-screening form.
Right. Okay. So I didn't know about that. So that's awesome. So this would be before we take the time out to do a showing, before we really spend too much extra time with them, we can send them something that, is there a cost to that for them?
No, it's free.
Okay. So that's awesome. I never knew about that. I'm definitely going to check that out. So guys, just in case you don't know, the beauty, what I love about Singlekey is, you know, as you know, when we used to do credit checks or, you know, any applications on people, half the time, we would ask them, you know, is there anything we should know about? And they go, oh, no, it's perfect. I've got great credit. I've got this. I've never been evicted, you know, all these kinds of things. And then you run, you know, you pay the $50 to run a credit check or a check on 2 people. And it turns out that, you know, certainly they definitely have bad credit or whatever it might be, something that's going to be a deal breaker for you. In the meantime, I, as the landlord, have spent $50. And I remember way back when I first started doing this, before I really knew how to properly screen people and kind of do all that kind of stuff. I remember on one place, I did that 4 times before I found a good tenant. So, you know, in the meantime, I'd wasted a couple $100 looking for a good tenant. And here you're saying, you know, for one, you can pre-screen them. So that's great. But for 2, here, guys, this is part of what I love, is instead of, you know, we then went to a system where we would charge them. We'd say, okay, well, you can apply, but you know, you have to pay us $25 for us to do it. And it kind of was a filter a bit to screen out people who didn't, you know, who then would be like, oh, well, we'll call you. You know, we're like, okay, perfect. But you guys, with you, I just put in their name, their phone number, and their email. Is that the 3 things that I put in?
Yeah, so there's a question right here from just says Facebook user, but
it's Brian
do tenants have to enter their SIN number to get a full report? So they can, and it does generally bring back a better percentage of accurate hit. So if you want to be 100% sure that you're going to get a really good hit, then yes, if you can, include the SIN number. But otherwise, name, current address, and driver's license usually gives, most of the time, gives an accurate hit as well.
Okay, so they don't have to put the SIN number in. It's better if they do, but a lot of people, a lot of tenants, and certainly like for good reason, they don't know us. And when we ask them for information that's that personal, they might not want to, but you can still get a good report off of them based on everything else.
Yep. Okay. It can happen that the report comes back, you know, it's based on the name and an address. You might have had 2 people with the same name that lived at the same address. It has happened. But generally it comes back accurate.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, this is great info. And I just saw something, hang on here. We have them pay for it themselves. And yeah, so do I. So that's the other beautiful part about Singlekey, guys, is that you just put in their, you know, like I said, their easy contact information, email, phone number, name, and it then emails them the application. Then you choose whether you're paying for it or they're paying for it. And again, it goes on their visa, not yours. If it's a no-go, that was their money that was spent, not your money that was spent. So it filters out a lot of people. It's a great I love that about Singlekey. Plus, I don't have to sit down at a computer and be typing in and try and get their address right. And oh, they didn't put the postal code. Now I got to text them. Hey, did you, what's your postal code? Oh, what's your husband's cell phone number? They have to put all their information in. What kind of stuff do they also have to put in that I can choose as the user? I can choose whether or not I want to see. I don't know if you know what I'm talking
I just want to go back to the point of being able to choose whether or not you pay for it or they pay for it. So yeah, absolutely. When you're running the credit check, you can choose whether you want to fill in the information yourself. So the first thing that you do, you create an account, then you check, okay, I want to do a credit check. I'm doing this because it is visually in the upper right-hand corner on the website.
Yeah.
So once you do that, you have the two options. I want to fill in the information myself, which is I've already received an application from the tenant and I have their consent for a credit check in that application. Then I can just put it in and I have it instantaneously. So I want to get it done quickly. That's the option. Then the second one is it's fine. I've got the time, but I don't have an application or I don't have a consent for a credit check from this person yet. I'll send it to them as a link and they can fill it out themselves. And then at that point, I can choose whether I want the tenant to pay for that credit check or I want to pay for it. I would highlight, though, that is market sensitive. So some areas in the country, the general consensus is that tenants won't pay for the credit check as part of the application, and in others, they will. So just be sensitive to where you are, what market you're in, because that will affect how many applications you'll receive as well.
Yeah, that's a great point for sure. Hey, Tanis, just wanted to say a real quick hi. We missed you on Saturday or Sunday. So George, he says, I haven't seen Singlekey's guest speaker's name.
It's Samuel.
Samuel, there we go.
I thought I had put it in there.
And last name?
Like I have. Last name is Robitaille.
Right, perfect, awesome. So I mean, so far we're just getting, people saying, yeah, I use it and I love it. We're not getting anyone with saying there's a problem with it or anything like that. I certainly haven't had any problems with it myself. I've maybe used it, I don't know, a dozen or so times. So
that's a great segue. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
It's a great segue into our next product, which is less people have tried it, but it's just as good as our credit check product. And that's the rent guarantee program. What's a rent guarantee and what does it eat in the wintertime, as we used to say in Quebec City? So it is an insurance-like product. It isn't an insurance product, but it is insurance-like in that if your tenants default on rent, so they stop paying, they so on and so forth, they lose their job, COVID happens, we will replace that rent for you for up to 12 months. We also pay for up to $10,000 in willful damage to the property. And we pay up to $1,500 in eviction fees. So that'll cover generally in most places, your paralegal fees, your filing fees, so on and so forth.
Okay, so let's say I'm a new landlord and I've always wanted to get into real estate investment, but the one thing that's been holding me back is that scary tenants, what if they don't pay me rent in places like Ontario where they, refuse payment of rent, that sort of thing. It's a scary place to be,
we're seeing a lot of tenants now 8-9 months behind in rent. And evictions are nowhere in sight. So it is a very scary time right now to be a landlord. We're talking about $20,000, $30,000 in some cases. That's not chump change. And if you are a small landlord with 1, 2, or 3 properties, that's going to hurt. You still have to pay your mortgage. So I see the rent guarantee program as something that we put into place, not because honestly, we didn't really want to offer an insurance type product. We were perfectly happy with our credit check systems, but it's something that we were being asked by by our clients to, if we knew of a place that it existed and one of our competitors had taken their product off the market completely. So we said, well, maybe we can do this better. And we were able to put something together that's really been quite a lot of help to a lot of landlords.
Okay, so, and I mean, that's a great thing. Now, what if they start with the program, let's say they do it for a year or two, they get a little bit more comfortable. Can they cancel it? What's the cancellation look like on that, on the rent guarantee?
Sure. Yeah, you can cancel it. I mean, you lose your coverage at that point, obviously, like any other insurance. Yeah. But there's no cancellation penalty or anything like that. We typically are talking about a 1 year renewal. So you're buying it for that lease, which is typically a year, and then you can renew with the renewal of the lease or not, depending on your situation.
Okay, and let's talk about how much that costs us to have that peace of mind element in there.
Yeah. So to cover at 100% of your rent, it's 5.5% of rent if you're paying monthly, or if you're paying annually up front, then it's 5%. So there's a bit of a discount there. And that is tax deductible.
Right.
So that's nice. And there's no tax on top of it.
So if I have $1,000 rent coming in and I choose to pay annually, then I'm going to send you $50 times 12 months. Is that $600? And for $600 for the year, I'm guaranteed my rent, whether or not they are refusing to pay or unable to pay, whether it's COVID related or just an attitude problem. I also have vandalism insurance, and I get covered $1,500 a month up to for evictions.
Yep.
And it's about $600 a year if my rent is about $1,000 a month.
Yeah, so 5%.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so I mean, great stuff. That's fantastic, especially for newer investors. That certainly can take a lot of the emotion, a lot of the fear out, because that's one thing that we all have when we first start investing in real estate. So, and a lot of our members are newer, right? And so that's a great program. So let's talk a little bit.
One thing, actually, I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off, but I just want to make sure that people know as well is that let's say, yeah, you know what, I really would like to have some coverage, but 5% seems like a lot. I don't think it's a lot, especially since it's tax deductible. But let's say, you want to kind of gauge, or you want some coverage, but you don't want to cover the whole rent. We can also do a percentage of. So if, let's say, you wanted to be covered for half of your rent, you'd be paying 2.5% instead of 5%. So that's also an option as well. So, just again, all of this is new to me as well. So this is great information, but I'm just immediately thinking, okay, so lots of us, maybe we have cash flow of, 25% of the rent becomes cash flow, but 75% of it is a hard cost. And that's the freaky part, is having to spend that money when you don't have rent coming in. So I could cover myself maybe for 75%. If I miss out on cash flow, well, that's fine. I don't care. I just don't want money coming out of my pocket. Exactly. I would then, and is that, is the ratio, it would be 75% of that 5% then, if I want 75% coverage? Yep.
All right.
Awesome. So, I mean, you'd get 75% coverage across the board. So instead of 10,000 you'd get of willful damage, you'd be covered up to 75% of that. But yeah, you can sort of customize your coverage as you'd like.
Nice. And are there any deductibles?
No deductibles.
No deductibles. So I have a claim. I just can go right ahead and use it.
Sorry, there are no deductibles on the rent payment. But there is $1,000 deductible or minimum on the willful damage.
Okay. So if somebody willfully $10,000 worth of damage, I pay $1,000 and I've got that extra coverage.
Exactly.
Okay. Awesome. All right, guys, if you have any questions in tenant screening, in credit checks, in, fraud scores, and all of that kind of stuff, go ahead and ask. I do have a question specifically about the reports. So I do have the reports that you sent, the sample one. You okay if I share screen, or would you like to do that? Or
Sure, go ahead.
okay, right on. So this was one of my questions here. Hang on. There we go. Okay. All right. Can everyone see the screen? Thumbs up. There we go.
Yep.
Hang on. Comments. There we go. Okay, right on. Okay. So one question that I had about this is I've got, sorry, I just have to go back to here. There we go. You've got your single key score right here.
Mm-hmm.
So 24 out of 100, let's say. A credit score, I understand that. It's 493 out of 850. Yep. That's not great. Your single key score is 24 out of 100. What is that? How do you guys figure that in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's weighted by a lot of different factors. And the reason we created that single key score is that the credit score is not a great indicator of whether or not a tenant will pay their rent.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of new landlords don't know this. Even a lot of professional property managers don't know this very well. But we don't take, let's say, our rent guarantee, we don't take the credit score into account at all.
Really?
Just so you understand how little it's actually a good indicator, we don't take it into account at all in the rent guarantee. So our criteria for rent guarantee is the rent to income ratio. So if you make $1,000 a month, you can't be paying $800 a month for rent, obviously, because you won't be able to pay that. Right. So we ask for a ratio of 45% and under.
Okay.
So that's a great indicator.
And
then,
36?
I'm sorry?
And in this case, your sample is 36. So 36% of their income is going to their rent.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So under 45%, we see that as low risk. Anything over 45% is high risk.
Okay. All right. Good to know. So good to know for us as investors, what the professionals are saying is, okay, George, good. I'm glad that works. I'm trying to figure that all out, how to magnify it. So, okay. So the single key score. So what, would I say, like, I only ever want to see a single key score of 100 out of 100. And that's the only time I'm going to rent to someone. Am I okay at 80, 50? Like what's, how would I gauge that as an investor?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's out of 100. Everyone's risk tolerance is different. So I can't give you if it's this number and over, great. But I can tell you that I wouldn't rent to this person at a 24. So that's at least a start. But it's really a way to see all the information that's in that report weighted together in our proprietary blend that gives you an idea of whether or not, based on our professional opinion and having seen thousands and thousands and thousands of these reports coming in, what we think is sort of their final score as a tenant. So again, your risk tolerance is entirely up to you as an investor, but it helps you get a bit of a gauge of their overall report.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's just kind of go through this just really, quickly here. So, we've got, this is your summary that you sent to us, kind of gives us a base, and then it gives us the information that they inputted here. It gives, again, it asks them for their employers' names, their address, their previous address. Why do we need the previous address?
That's a good question. It helps us get a better hit for results, and also to pull up a lot of that information. Then the landlord name and an email and phone number. So we will do your reference checks for you if you'd like.
Okay, right on. So I know for myself, I have checked that just the last couple of times and said, yeah, go ahead and do it, because I wanted to, test out your system. And if there's also a part that says, do you want them to have to take a picture of their pay stub? And then I guess somebody makes sure that the pay stub actually fits what their credit report says, or what? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, exactly. So we check to make sure that's accurate. And then if it is, it gets sent over to you.
Okay. Interesting too. Do you own a car? What kind of car? So you have them put that in. I found it interesting. I had one tenant that came and they were driving a different car than what was said. So I asked them about it and they're like, oh, well, yeah, I'm just borrowing a car because mine is actually broken down right now. And I was like, okay, so there's a couple $1,000s that's going to be leaving their pocket. You know, like those little things that just kind of help out on us knowing what they're doing. Have you ever declared bankruptcy? Have you ever refused to pay rent? Tell us about this one. This is kind of a new one, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, these are all questions that you can add to the report. So you can customize them if you'd like. But have you ever refused to pay rent? We're gonna see if there was any collections or if a landlord declared this. We'll see it in the report anyways. So it gives them the opportunity to be forthcoming about it and explain the situation. Like, yes, but I refused to pay rent, but the landlord had this and this, and they had done so on and so forth, and it wasn't a fair situation or whatever it may be, right?
Right.
So we want to know that. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? Yeah, bring your story forward. Maybe, you smoked a joint back in the 70s and a cop arrested you for it. I've seen that specifically. That's why I mention it. Not necessarily something that you'd want to, not rent to someone for.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So Cheryl's asking this question here. Does the report explain these scores? So that's what he's kind of getting into right now. And can you just kind of walk us through this little bit here that we see on the screen? So what kind of, where you see something that says likely versus seeing something that says returned or cleared? What does all that mean?
Yeah, so I'll answer. Sorry, I didn't grab her name there, but I saw the question. So the report explained these scores. So yes, to a certain, I'm not sure I understand the question entirely, but I'll go with what I think she's getting at.
Sure.
Which is, no, there's not an explanation in the report, like a breakdown of like, this is what this credit score means and so on and so forth. But there is a full breakdown of, let's say, why the credit score is this way. And we'll get into this now as we go through the report. But it's not a written out explanation of the reports.
Sure.
And as far as the Singlekey score goes, no, there isn't a breakdown of that. It's more of an indicator to give you an idea, but it is, we don't have an explanation like point by point of why the score is that way. But we do have, I believe, on our website under resources, an explanation of what goes into the report, or sorry, the Singlekey score.
Perfect. Good enough. Okay, so now if we're looking at all of these public court records, all this stuff, what we want to see is that it's green everywhere, right? We don't really want to see a lot of.
Yeah. So this is an actual report that came in. Obviously, we changed the names and everything, but it gives you a good idea of what you don't want as a tenant. So if you look on the right, so the Equifax credit report, that's an obvious fail because it's a very, very low score. And then we've got under background check, some of our different reports there. The red ones, you'll see criminal record search, likely. Likely just means there was a hit. So for some reason, it doesn't say yes. It will just tell you likely or cleared. Okay. And then fraud watch list, also likely. So we'll see further down in the report what it is that brought those back.
Okay, so if financial summary basically saying what their debts or bankruptcies, collections are. So that's great. Here's the social details. So automatically you can just go to their Facebook profile and see, are they talking about like, partying every weekend and, or what a jerk their landlord is, or, are they posting pictures of their healthy looking kids in a nice clean house. So all of that is nice and handy. Is this here where, this is where the criminal scan comes up?
Exactly. Okay. So you'll see this person, again, a real report that came back. had multiple firearms, both trafficking and possession felonies, and drug trafficking distribution felonies as well. So not someone you want living in your community, most likely.
Right? I mean, unless the neighbors are the same, then maybe you just match them up. Okay. Hey, you're Shad. Nice to see you. Okay, so great. So I think that was mostly all that I had. I loved all this stuff, all these different things that we have to, reference that I would never know. And then Cheryl, this is kind of what I looked at and saw their credit score. It kind of explains, look, if they're an A+ person, they're green. If they're, they're in B's, B+, A, green, yellow. As soon as we start getting into the oranges and reds, we know that they're maybe not so great. So, we don't necessarily have to understand it all, but the weight is shown here. And it makes it a lot easy for us. Now, all of this stuff here is how much they owe, where, and how often they pay, and, if they've had any collections. We can look at that. We can see it. We can ask questions about it if we'd like to them. But we don't really need to delve into it because we have this information here. It's kind of color-coded for us. And we just kind of set our standard rate. Like for me, I'm like, okay, so I'm a B or better. If they're a B or better, I'm happy to rent to them. Depending on the property, it might have to be an A or better, depending on the tenant, demographic. But yeah, it kind of simplifies it for us, just even color coding, which is always great.
Yeah. So a couple of things. If you go up a little bit, I wanted to highlight just a little bit previous to that. A little bit higher. There's right there, publication source. So those are some of the news articles that we scrape as well that I referenced previously.
Oh, right on. That's
yeah.
cool.
So this particular person had a news article about them and their firearm charge in downtown Yellowknife.
Gotcha.
Yeah, their previous addresses as well. I always like to check to make sure that the previous addresses that the applicant gave me are the same as the ones here on the report.
Right.
And then if they're not, chances are they might have been lying about where they lived before.
Yes, absolutely.
Then if we go down, color coding, I'd like to highlight the fact that people often have a hard time, or I get asked the question all the time, which is, well, what's a good credit score for my tenant? Especially from newer landlords, what's the magical number? Unfortunately, there's no clear-cut answer to that. It really depends on what your risk tolerance is. And again, the credit score, I just want to highlight this, is not a good indicator of whether or not your tenant will pay. It's a good indication of have they paid their phone bill and their credit card recently. That's it. They might have forgotten to pay their credit card last month or forgotten to whatever. It happens. Life happens, especially with renters. They're renting for a reason. Usually their credit scores aren't as good. So it's important to remember to be reasonable in our expectations. The average score for a renter in Canada is 650. The average score for a building owner or a house owner is 750. Just something to keep in mind.
That's great. That's a good comparison. And I can tell you that personally, in my properties that are a little bit, not lower end, but kind of mid kind of thing, I'm fine with a 650 score. But not much lower. But then some of my nicer, more executive properties, I'm absolutely like 730, 750. It has to be at least that much, because they are nicer properties and more damage can be done, even just the simple things. So we all have to set, and guys, we've done trainings in the past on tenant demographic and setting that tenant demographic so that you don't have a decision to make every single tenant that you have. You run your Singlekey report, and if the report comes back in that they're 89, great, and if it's anything under that, no. or if it's that they're 60 and anything under that is a no, anything over that is yes. It takes the emotions out when you use this kind of stuff where you don't and same with credit scores. I'm big on credit, and I understand that you're not, which is great, but myself, I'm big on it because the only times I've ever been burnt is when they didn't have good credit. And so I'm really big on good credit. It doesn't have to be great, but it certainly can't be bad. But I just set my parameters so that even if I'm a bleeding heart and go, oh, it's a single mom with 3 cute little kids, and I was talking to them for an hour and I really want to rent to them, okay, but they don't have a 650 or more, and in this property I've set 650 as my lowest, and therefore it takes the emotion out. So exactly, have a system created then, and then you don't have to overthink anything. Yes,
I agree entirely. Again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't take the credit score into account at all, but it is a good indicator of other things, but it's not an indicator of whether or not the tenant will pay their rent.
Right.
So
for sure,
the distinction there.
And I love Jules and George having this conversation, saying like, oh my goodness, like what if someone's got the same name as you? So that's where all the extra background information certainly helps, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this stuff, it's
so
nice.
If we can pause right there, I referred earlier to the full trade lines. So if you go up to the previous page, that's where you'll see debt summary. So right here, this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Other companies will offer you this kind of summary. Revolving credit, this much. Other credit, that much. Automobile loans, that much. But it doesn't tell you what bank did they have their auto loan with? When did they open it? So on and so forth. You're still very much in the dark. If you go down to the next page, this is your full trade lines. And this is a great reason to use Singlekey. Bell Mobility opened on this date, last date reported, last or balance amount, last activity or payment, tuck. This is the full account run through.
I can tell you, I just used this actually feature with someone that I had applied for a place of ours, and she had said, oh no, my credit's good, and it was not good. And then she was like, well, there must be a mistake. And I said, okay, so did you apply for this at TD? Did you apply for this at Bell Mobility? Did you apply for this at Auto, Carphone, Carfax, or whatever, all these different auto loan companies in the last 2 months? Like, and she's like, oh, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, then I think it's probably correct. So having that kind of information certainly just took any argument out, and just, sorry, like I told you, we do have a minimum for credit. And so the application just doesn't pass. Done. No emotion. I didn't have to fight with her. I didn't have to go through the emotion of it. It just was, here you go. And having those trade line things certainly did help that. So that's awesome. Okay, so lots of different stuff, collections, bankruptcies, judgments, all these kinds of things. All of this is super helpful for us as investors, guys. We don't have to understand all of it, because the nice thing is that all of these things are brought in. Everything that we're scrolling through right now, it's all brought in, and at the end of the day, Singlekey will give us a little, idea of what they feel from their professional experience and opinion, what they feel is, a good score or a low score. And so at the end of the day, we don't have to understand it all, because we're hiring people that do. So don't let it overwhelm you. So really quickly, we've got Earshot. He jumped in a little bit late. What is Singlekey? Samuel, what is Singlekey?
Yeah, so Singlekey, again, is a risk management solutions company for landlords and property managers, in a nutshell.
Perfect. All right. And here's another question for you. Do you cover how to get the tenant to fill this out?
Yeah, so you can send it to the tenant from your account as a link, and they can fill it out. Awesome.
All right. And the beauty of that, I'm just trying to see if I can see who said that. The beauty of that is, whoever asked this question, is then you can also say, have them pay. So if they want to fill out the application, they're going to pay. They're going to put their Visa card in. You're not going to put yours in. You can also say, oh, I'm going to pay for it. Just have them fill out the information. You have to choice. But having that choice is a beautiful, beautiful thing. All right, that was Heather. Yeah, there you go, Heather. So any questions for Samuel? We've got about another 5 minutes, guys. So anything else that we should know about Samuel, about what you guys offer, and how honestly you guys have made our lives so much easier as investors, and that tenant screening process where it used to even take, you know, a couple of days, and checking references and how much do they make, and does their pay stub say where they work, where their application does, and how's their credit, and all that kind of stuff. How long? I mean, honestly, for me, it's been minutes. I usually get back a confirmation, a report back in minutes. So how long does this usually take the average investor to get back a report like this?
Well, it's one thing how long reports take to come back. It's another thing to know how long it takes to set this all up, which is a couple of minutes. With some other companies, you're talking about days of setting up your account and sending proof of this and being verified and so on and so forth. But I need to pull a report right now. Well, you're out of luck. Whereas with us, you can go on right now and pull a report within minutes, not having an account. So that's a big difference. Once you are set up, though, the report takes, we say under 5 minutes, but typically it's instantaneous.
So I can do a credit check on my, I mean, I know there's some things that I can also choose to do extra that might take some time to get back, but I can usually do a credit check even if I was standing there talking to them, couldn't I?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I recommend doing that. If you're in a showing and they say, oh, you know what, we want to see the place. Okay, send them the link right then and there. They fill it out in front of you on their phone and boom, you know.
Yeah, right on. Okay,
Yeah.
can you talk about the pre-screening? I'm not sure exactly what questions, but maybe just run over that. People come and go in a live, so we get people
No problem.
we'll have 1,500 people that watch this over the next week. So all this kind of review stuff is good for just everybody. So, yeah. What about pre-screening?
Yeah, so pre-screening allows you to ask tenants for certain pieces of information that you can customize, obviously. So you set up your own pre-screen based on whatever questions you want to ask. And there's a whole bunch of different questions in there. We add new ones all the time. You customize it, you send it to them as part of sort of getting them before the application. And it does two things. One, it weeds out people that you don't want applying. So you don't have to spend your time looking at applications that are just erroneous. And then the other thing is they've gotten a little bit invested. So people are very fickle now. They're online, they're on their phone, they're doing something else. So getting through a whole application, we see often more than 50% fall off. So people will start an application, but then they don't complete it because, I have to this and that and the other thing. And so you're losing good potential applicants because they're in the middle of preparing supper, or the kid decided to throw up, or whatever it may be, right? Yeah. So the pre-screening gets them kind of invested without it taking a lot of time. They get that positive feedback of, oh, okay, you've been qualified, you can now apply. So then they go, oh, okay, this is worth my time. And they feel that, okay, I've already invested a little bit into this application, and they're more likely to complete the application. Our application rates are well above 89%, which is a huge difference from the around 50%, which is the market standard.
Right on. Yeah. And you know, for us, when sometimes we used to expect an application back, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to apply, and I'm waiting. You know, so if you can help me to up that from a 50%, although, yeah, I think ours were a little bit stronger than that, but still, if you can help me up that to around 90%, my goodness, that's right there is huge. So Tammy's asking, we've only got a few minutes left here, but let's get some of these questions in real quick. So it looks like maybe the report says local inquiries for Singlekey. So What is this category? I've had a couple with a huge list of things. Is this a red flag?
No, not necessarily. So local inquiries means in Canada. So foreign inquiries would mean credit inquiries outside of Canada. That's just anytime you're applying for credit. So you asked for a credit card, or you got financing on a new car. Those are all inquiries that will go onto your report. If you see 20 of them in the last week, then yeah, that's a red flag. But generally, if there's a few of them, they'll stay on the report for about 3 years. And generally, it's not a red flag to see. I guess it depends how many we're talking about, and a huge number. But if there's a lot of them in a short period of time, credit agencies see that as a red flag, and their credit score will go down because of that. So if you see that and their credit score is low, then yeah, that is a red flag.
Okay, so what's the difference? Like, why wouldn't it say Visa or Payday Loan Company or whatever? If it's local Canadian, why wouldn't it say those things versus local inquiry?
So it's under the category local inquiries.
Okay,
in the report. So, but you would see what merchant that request was made with. So if it's Royal Bank or TD Financing or whatever, that'll be in there.
Awesome. Okay, let's hit one last question. Does the potential tenant also get the quick report in that scenario, or is it just us as landlords that get it?
Yeah, great question, George. And howdy from Halifax, one of my favorite places in Canada, or definitely in my top 5. I love getting out there when I can. So no, they don't. They do, however, have the option to purchase it at a much lower rate. So we do offer tenants the option to buy the credit report when you as a landlord put it through at a much lower rate, because you've already paid for it. So we offer the service as a little plus to your tenants.
And you know what? That's awesome to know, because I've had over the years so many people say to me, can you give me a copy of that? And I'm like, actually, my agreement with the credit bureau is that I can't. So, and they're like, that's crazy, So that's a great thing to be able to just say, like, oh yeah, well, I can't give it to you by law, but you know what? There's a cheaper option for you. So about how much is it for them? Just so we know what to say.
They get it at 50% off.
Nice. Right on. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So international tenants. Oh, Ricardo, we actually covered this a little bit earlier, so maybe catch the replay, only because we're in a little bit of a rush. Also, we've got an announcement for you guys. Samuel has generously and kindly offered to Fearless a discount on your service. So thank you so much for doing that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how we access it?
Yeah, so promo code is Fearless20 when you sign up, and I'll send you a link as well, sign up link that the promo code will be integrated into, so you can share it with your members. And yeah, 20% off any reports going forward as Fearless members.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thank you. That's great. And as you can see, we've got lots of people that are already using your service. We've been talking about you guys a lot in our group for the last probably year and a half. I remember the first time that I used you guys, I was like, wait, I'm going to do one. Let me check them out first before you do it, and then I'll let you know if I liked it or not. So yeah, loving the service. Thanks so much. We've got lots of people saying thank you. Yeah, that's a huge hookup. Look at this. So lots of love for you. We had all this up here as well. So yeah.
Also, if you have used the service and you liked it, or you do end up using it and you do like it, we always appreciate a good review. We've got lots of great reviews on Google. We're super grateful for that. But we always appreciate, and we read them. We do read them. We share them in the office. We're happy about them. So if you can leave us a great review, we'll be very grateful for that as well.
Right on. And you know what? Like, I always feel like that's just kind of like your good deed for the day. Sometimes, like, to leave a good review for someone, it's a feel good thing, right? So, all right. Thank you, Sam, for your time. Thank you for the discount code for our Fearless. We appreciate it. We will be good humans and good clients for you guys. Yeah, thanks for joining us. And we'll look forward to that link. We'll make sure to throw it in here as well as in Fearless as well. And thanks for making our lives easier. It's awesome.
No problem. We'll continue to try to make your lives much easier going forward. We have some new products coming out as well. I forgot to mention, but we do have a free payment processing platform that we're introducing. So we're in beta testing right now. It is available on the platform in a limited capacity. So that's going to allow you to have your tenants pay you through the platform without any payment processing fees. So that's great. But also it will allow you to report their payments to Equifax.
Gotcha. Nice.
Exactly.
So we're starting to create, again, more of a landlord tenant or credit bureau as well within Singlekey then.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's that incentive of if your tenant is reporting, if it's reporting, or sorry, their rent payment is reporting to the credit agencies, they're more likely to pay. Because it will affect their score negatively otherwise. So stay tuned for that. We're going to keep on adding new products, new value adds to the platform. If ever you have any questions, go on Singlekey. There's a little chat bot on the bottom of it. It starts out as a chat bot, but when you go through the options, you can quickly talk with a human there as well. We're real people in a real office in Toronto. So feel free to send us your questions and chat. We love hearing from landlords from all over.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. You guys rock. And we'd love to have you back sometime, get more word out about you guys. But in the meantime, thanks guys, and cheers.
Enjoy your time in Ontario.
Yeah, and Halifax. We're headed to Halifax, your favorite place.
There we go. Get to the sea before it gets too cold.
Yes, you bet. Okay, and we're going to see all of you guys in Ottawa at our meetup next week. Okay, so we will be there on Friday for a Fearless meetup, Ignited dinner the next day just for our Igniteds. And all of you Igniteds, we'll see you over in Laser where we're going to head up some of these questions. All right, so we'll see you guys all. Thanks again, Sam, and cheers, everyone.
Take care.